Hi, this is Jamie with FOSDP, and we are live here at the Arc Theater for the first annual Fearless Women's Conference.
Focusing on successful documentary production, integrity, focusing on successful documentary production, integrity.
This is Jamie with FOSDP, and I am here with the author of this phenomenal book, Krista Black, God Loves Ugly. You also have the song, too, which I listened to. It's phenomenal. I'm so, excited to be. I didn't even think I would get a chance to talk to you, but to hear her speak, you guys, you're so authentic and transparent. You don't see that a lot. When did you start? When was that process that you came to know that you could be real and stand up before people and give your true testimony?
My very first memories of life were sexual, so I thought if anybody ever sees who I really am, they'll reject me, and then you end up just performing, and you have to be perfect all the time, otherwise it means that you're not going to be loved. So a huge part of my healing was being healed in areas that I could finally then turn around and go, man, I can tell everybody about this and there's no shame involved because I'm still loved. And so the more that I would actually, give away all of my secrets, basically I just give all my secrets away, the more I gave them away, the more I had no shame. I was still loved, and not only that, but people were always coming up to me going, I thought I was the only one. So that's the way that kind of the enemy works, is when you keep things in secret and you keep things in shame, you think, oh, I'm the only one who struggles with this. So I love telling my testimony. Testimony means do it again. And it means that when I share my testimony in front of everyone, it's like, yeah, God, do it again. Do the same thing in somebody else's life.
Love that. And you were honest about depression. And I know a lot of America has suffered and is suffering with depression. But you also touched on that you can be healed. Yeah. You said that they tell us that it's a lifelong process. You may never get out of that. Speak to that there is healing in that.
Well, I was told, I was in rehab for my eating disorder, and they said, well, here's your pill. And I took my medication for a while, and, their saying for it was the medication will help you get to a point where you can actually cope with what you're dealing with. And I think that that's fine, but a lot of people use medication as the solution, and it's not the solution. It masks the problem. So the whole point of medication is to get you to a point where you can actually begin to deal with the issue and then actually move past it, get healed to where you don't need any of it anymore. Because, for me, addiction was kind of my main means of control and how I managed the pain. I would always use substance abuse to numb myself. So for me, dealing with the food addiction and then the drugs and alcohol and then, medication would just be another way that I would be trying to fill myself with something to get a false sense of security and happiness that really wasn't solving any problem. And when I open the Bible, it says really radical promises like, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, total freedom. So I knew that if that promise was available to me, then it was my inheritance this side of heaven, and I wasn't going to stop until I was seeing it manifest in my life.
Now, what would you say, Krista, to someone who's suffering with depression, but they're new to the faith? Okay. And you've told us which they'll see a little bit. You won't get to see all of what happened today. I'm sorry, but it was really great. But you told us in the session that you can't really give love to someone else unless you really loved yourself. Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone who's new to the faith, they're suffering with depression, and they feel like they don't see they don't see that end goal of getting healed from that. They don't see what you're saying that it can happen.
Right. Well, I would say, first of all, stop focusing on the depression. A negative only produces another negative. So when I would focus on the food, I was focusing on the problem, and then it always catapulted. Or if I focused on the depression, then what happened? I'd get more depressed. Focusing on the depression, focusing on the problem never solves anything, but focusing on the solution changes everything. So when I was struggling with depression, it was just that I didn't believe I was lovable. And I was tormented just by fear and anxiety and worry and self-hatred and insecurity. I mean, just the depression of not being able to get free and not knowing how to get out. So the more that I started focusing on the promises, on the solution, on who I was in Christ, on what he'd done for me. You know, I said it in the message, but so much of our teaching is behavioral modification. And you can't change yourself. I couldn't change myself. I had to come into the realization that I wasn't getting free. I already was free. I wasn't becoming righteous. I already was righteous. And once I started viewing myself as that, like, I don't have an eating disorder. I don't have depression anymore. It's been paid for. It's in the ground. It was paid for on the cross. He died not for me, but as me. He died as my depression. I started focusing on all the promises, all the things that he'd done. And he said that I was going to have joy. He said that I was going to have peace. He said that I was loved and that I was going to have a relationship. The more I focused on the solution, the more my life began to look that way, because I was having experiences with those things. I was believing it, and they were manifesting in my life.
Wow. But can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You've had so much success. You've written for you've written for Jordan Sparks. You've worked with the Jonas Brothers. You've sold more than 3 million in platinum record sales.
Right.
During those times, did you suffer with this depression, or is this before you got the success? Because a lot of times people feel like when they get to the dream, things will get better. Once
That's
I get
such a lie.
right, and so you kind of spoke to that today in your speaking, and it was what was really clarifying for me. I watched a movie last night that talked about that. You spoke about that today, and then someone talked about that 2 days ago. So that's 3 times that I've heard someone say that, because we think that, like, once we get the dream is fulfilled, once we get that house, the car, we're going to be happy. You talked about how you sold the records. You worked with some of the greats, Jordan Sparks, the Jonas Brothers. So you have experienced what success is. And a lot of the times we feel like, even me sometimes, that once I get what I've been praying for, my life will be better. Speak to our audience and tell them that how that's not necessarily true, and how they can, because sometimes we can come hear you today and still walk away, face a problem tomorrow, and not have those same feelings.
Right.
So is that clear?
absolutely.
Speak to our audience about how to work through those.
Well, I think the biggest thing that helped me to kind of solve that problem, because, you know, I'm a visionary, so I'm always looking to the next thing, and then I'd get there, and then it wasn't enough, and there would always be something up ahead that I'd want, and then always something. And so, you know, to realize that the journey is actually the destination. The process that you're in right now is the goal. So your current journey of going, I'm walking out my freedom from depression. Your current journey of, I'm in the midst of walking out my eating disorder, walking out my anger, that is the goal. And you only have grace for today. That's it. There is only grace for today. And so many times we're looking forward to that next thing, when really, if we just look at what's in our hands right now, and we're faithful with what's in our hands, and we realize, I just have grace for today, then every single day becomes in fullness. You know, I live in fullness now because I live in every moment. And the journey that I'm on right now, this is the destination. Krista right here, this moment is the destination of my life. And so you stop having expectations of yourself, you know, of going, oh, I need to be more. I need to do this. It's like, no, this is where I am right now. I'm going to live it in fullness. I'm going to live it, you know, as in all the promises that I can. And I wrote God Loves Ugly. When I wrote that song, I didn't write it experiencing it. I wrote it in faith. I wrote it going, I know this is true, and I'm going to sing it until it is true, manifesting in my life. And so I was still in the process of learning what it meant to be loved into wholeness when I wrote that song. But now when I sing it, I have a lot of authority in that area, because I'm living it. I sang it until it became a part of my mainframe, until it became a part of my being, until when I sing it now, I'm already free. I'm here to get you free. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I got the book, and I want our audience to get the book. Tell them what they can expect from this book. Like, why should they buy God Loves Ugly?
Well, I wanted a very practical book with practical steps towards getting people free from anything, from fear, anxiety, worry. I mean, those things are just as much bondage. Somebody who looks in the mirror and goes, I hate what I see every single day. That's just as much bondage as depression, addiction, eating disorders, cutting, whatever it is. So I wanted to write a book that very practically moved people from point A to point B. And I break things down. I mean, you heard me speak. I want it to be very visual. I want it to be very very simple. I want to give people practical things that they can apply to their life, because I want people's life to not go, oh, I just read a book and it was fabulous, but they take it and there's things that they're doing on an ongoing process to walk into the fullness of that freedom. So it's a book, but it's also kind of it's also a study guide. It's also, at the end of each chapter, there's your turn sections. And now it's like, hey, your life's not going to change unless you take the reins and you do these things, because it will change your life. It's all about being very intentional towards living in the fullness of freedom.
Well, I could talk to you all day. You're just wonderful. And I want to thank you for being humble and taking the time to speak with me. And I pray that you guys will go out there and get this book, because it's really, really good, and she's really, really real, which is rare. You don't find that. Hey guys, so I know you enjoyed Krista Black. Wasn't she wonderful? Comment below and share your thoughts with us. We'd love to know what you thought about Krista Black. She spoke the truth about her personal experiences and how God has helped her get over them. So let us know what you thought. Remember, head over to Pinterest and pin us on Pinterest. We have some really great, interesting things on there, that favorite books, some of our favorite foods. So head over there and check us out on Pinterest. That's FOSDP at Pinterest. Follow us on Twitter at Twitter/FOSDP. Also, like us on Facebook. We have some really great things going on Facebook that we would love to share with you. Daily tweets, daily Facebook. Thank you so much for watching. It was a pleasure serving as your host, and I pray blessings and favor over your life. Thank you.
Focusing on